I want you to picture a crime scene, but not the CSI kind with yellow tape and shell casings.
Right.
I want you to imagine the crime scene is a server farm in St. Petersburg, or maybe just a laptop in a coffee shop. The weapon isn't a gun, it's a narrative, a fake news story, a forged document, a meme.
It's the world of information influence operations IIOs. And the real problem with this kind of crime scene is that the perpetrators are usually invisible. They're hiding behind layers of VPNs, encrypted chats, and, automated botnets.
Exactly, and that's the frustration, isn't it? We see these headlines constantly. Russian disinformation campaign targeting Ukraine. And a lot of people just nod and say, sure, probably, but how do we actually know?
Is it just a hunch?
Yeah, is it political posturing, or is there a way to, I don't know, mathematically, scientifically prove who is behind the keyboard?
Oh, it is absolutely a science. And more importantly, it's becoming a legal framework. We aren't just talking about debunking anymore. We are talking about attribution.
Which brings us to today's deep dive. We are unpacking a massive joint report that just came out in January 2026. It's from the Ukrainian Center for Strategic Communications and the NATO Strategic Communications Center of Excellence.
And they've developed something called the Information Influence Attribution Framework.
That's a mouthful.
It is, I know. But think of this framework as the definitive rulebook for digital forensics. It's designed to move analysts from saying, we suspect this is Russia, to we can demonstrate with high confidence that this is a state-coordinated operation.
So it's about a standard of evidence, something that could actually stand up in court, maybe.
Exactly, like under the EU's Digital Services Act.
And before we get into the spycraft, because this really is digital spycraft, I want to mention our partners for this deep dive, www.breach.company and www.myprivacy.blog.
Well, that's a good link.
It is, because we're going to spend a lot of time today talking about how state actors leave these unintentional digital footprints. Well, guess what? So do you.
Everybody does. The same metadata and digital exhaust that analysts use to catch these operatives are the same things bad actors use to target you.
So checking a site like www.breached.company to see if your data has been exposed in a leak, that's basically doing counterintelligence on yourself.
It really is. It's the first step in locking down your own perimeter.
Okay, so let's get into the framework. The report argues that you can't just rely on one smoking gun. You need, 3 pillars of evidence to build a case?
Correct. It's a triad. You need technical evidence, behavioral evidence, and contextual evidence.
Fingerprints, modus operandi, and motive.
Exactly. Think of it like that. You need all 3 to converge to make a solid attribution.
Let's start with the technical evidence, the fingerprints. This is usually the hardest part for people to wrap their heads around because it's all the invisible plumbing of the internet.
It is. And the report details a specific case study about a website called fondfbr.ru.
The Foundation for Combating Repression.
Sounds incredibly noble.
We are here to save human rights.
Right. On the surface, yes. But when the analysts started digging into the infrastructure, the actual server setup, the whole facade just fell apart. They looked at the WHOAS records.
Which is basically the registration paperwork for a domain name.
Yep. And usually, if you're the Red Cross or Amnesty International, you register as an organization. You want people to know who you are.
Of course.
But this foundation, it was registered to a private person.
Ah, that's your first red flag.
Huge red flag. Legitimate NGOs don't hide their identity. But it gets more specific. They used a registrar called RegGRU.
I've seen that name pop up in threat intel reports before. It's a favorite for a reason, isn't it?
It is. It's a Russian registrar known for, robust privacy protection. But more importantly, it has a reputation for just ignoring Western takedown requests.
So if you're launching an op, you host it somewhere that won't pick up the phone when the EU calls.
Precisely.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate here. I have a personal blog. I use shared hosting. I use privacy protection because I don't want weirdos knowing my addresses that make me a Russian asset.
No, and that's a crucial distinction. And that's why one data point is never enough. But let's look at the hosting. This foundation wasn't just on a shared server. It was on an IP address hosting 1,700 other websites.
1,700? Wow, that's a lot of neighbors.
It is mass hosting. It suggests a factory-like production of websites, not a dedicated server for a well-funded NGO. But the real technical smoking gun for me was the SSL certificate.
The encryption, the little lock icon in the browser.
Yes. Now, most people just think padlock means safe. But in security, there are different types of padlocks. A legitimate organization gets an organization validation or OV certificate. You have to prove you exist. You show papers.
You have to prove you are who you say you are.
Exactly. This website, they used Let's Encrypt.
The free automated version.
Right. It's a domain validation certificate. It proves you control the website, but it proves nothing about who you are. It's automated, it's free, and it creates no paper trail, no financial footprint.
So when you combine the private person registration, the bulletproof registrar, the mass hosting, and the anonymous SSL.
The probability of this being a legitimate NGO just drops to near zero. And it turns out that domain was publicly linked to the network of the late Yevgeny Prigozhin.
So the technical breadcrumbs led right back to a known actor.
But that's just infrastructure. The report also applies this technical lens to social media, specifically Telegram. And this is where the math gets really interesting. They analyzed a channel called @YourAskMe.
The World Today with Yuri Podolyaka, that's a massive channel. We're talking over 3 million subscribers.
Huge. And to test if it was organic, they looked at something called the engagement rate by reach, or ERR.
Okay, now I know a bit about social media marketing. If you have 1 million followers, getting a 5 or 10% engagement rate, likes, shares, comments, that's considered viral. That's a home run.
Exactly. As your audience grows, your engagement rate typically drops. It's just the law of large numbers.
So what was @YourAskMe pulling?
An ERR of 55%.
55%. That's mathematical nonsense. That means for every 2 people who saw a post, one of them interacted with it, with 3 million subscribers.
It's statistically impossible for organic human behavior. In the industry, anything consistently over 50% on a channel that size just screams bot farm.
It's inflation. They're pumping the stock.
It implies the views and likes are being scripted.
Yeah.
And they didn't just look at rates, they look at the network graph. Using TG-Stat data, they mapped who this channel was talking to. It wasn't interacting with the broader ecosystem. It was in a closed loop, constantly cross-promoting with a specific list of pro-Kremlin channels.
It's a circuit board, not a community.
Precisely. And this is a great reminder for our listeners. These bot networks need fuel. They need accounts.
And they don't just create them from scratch. Often they use stolen credentials to look more real.
Which is why we keep bringing up www.breach.company. If your email and password were in a leak from 5 years ago, that account might currently be a zombie in one of these botnets, liking propaganda without you even knowing it.
That is a terrifying thought. You could be a silent participant in an influence op. So please, check your data at www.breached.company. And if you want to understand how to lock it all down, go to www.myprivacy.blog.
Okay, so moving on to the second pillar, behavioral evidence, the modus operandi.
This is where we stop looking at the servers and start looking at how they execute the operation. And my absolute favorite part of this report is what they call the time travel mistake.
Chuckles. It's a classic slip-up. It happens when the coordination is a little too tight.
So set the scene. There's a story circulating about an alleged armed clash between Georgian and Ukrainian soldiers. Total fiction.
Never happened. But the goal is to create tension between the two nations. So to give the lie credibility, the narrative was supposed to originate from a source, a Telegram channel run by a man named Andrei Marachko.
Right. The script was Marachko reports it, then the big news outlets pick it up. Standard stuff.
Standard sourcing. But the data showed a glitch in the matrix. Major Russian outlets like TASS published the story at exactly 8:02 a.m.
But Marachko's channel, a supposed source of the information,
Didn't post it until after 8:02 a.m.
It's a sequencing anomaly. TASS was citing a source that hadn't spoken yet.
Exactly. It proves that TASS wasn't monitoring Telegram for news. They were both reading from the same pre-distributed script, and someone at the TASS news desk just hit publish a few minutes too early.
It completely destroys the illusion of organic journalism. And it wasn't just TASS, right?
No. The report mentions that outlets like lenta.ru and rambler.remu published the exact same text with the exact same images at the exact same minute.
That's another behavioral giveaway. Simultaneity.
It is. In real journalism, even if everyone is covering the same press release, it takes time to write to edit. When 5 different outlets publish identical content at 08.02.00, that's not humans. That's centralized software.
So the report categorizes these behaviors using something called the disarm framework. It's like a periodic table for these tactics.
Yes, the Defense Information Strategy Awareness and Response Model. It allows analysts to tag specific moves with codes, like T0086.003.
Which is the code for cheap fakes.
Right. We talk a lot about deepfakes, the AI, video, voice cloning. But cheap fakes are often way more effective. The report highlights a campaign claiming Poland was planning to annex Western Ukraine. They didn't use high-tech AI. They just photoshopped billboards.
This was the Warsaw Metro example.
Yes. They circulated images of billboards in the Warsaw Metro calling for tank operators to protect Poland and Ukraine. The billboards never existed. But on a phone screen scrolling quickly, it looks real enough.
And they paired that with another tactic, T0081.004, identify existing fissures.
Yes, they took a real video of Polish President Duda saying there would be no borders between Poland and Ukraine. He was clearly speaking metaphorically about cooperation.
But they reframed the context.
They cut the clip and captioned it to imply no borders because we are taking over. It's a simple recontextualization. You take a grain of truth, the video exists, and you wrap it in a lie.
It's much harder to debunk than a complete fabrication. Which brings us to the final pillar. We have the tech, the behavior, now we need the contextual items, the motive.
This is the why. Does the narrative align with the strategic goals of a specific state? And does the timing align with political events?
And the case study here is the Elena Zelenska-Cartier story. This was a huge viral lie claiming Ukraine's first lady spent $1.1 million at Cartier in New York.
While her husband was at the UN asking for aid, this is a textbook example of what they call narrative laundering. It follows a three-step cycle: placement, layering, and integration.
Okay, walk us through that.
Step 1, placement. You need to get the lie onto the internet. In this case, a video appeared on a private Instagram account, a total throwaway. It had a woman claiming to be a former Cartier intern who was fired after helping Zelenska. She held up a receipt.
A forged receipt.
A terrible forgery. It was a prop. Step 2 is layering. You obscure the source. A blank YouTube account reposts the video. Then Telegram channels that mimic legitimate Ukrainian media pick it up.
And finally, integration.
Russian state media, the big guns, cite these reports as proof of corruption. Social media is buzzing about it. The intern was identified. She wasn't in New York. She was a student living in St. Petersburg who had never worked at Cartier.
The whole identity was manufactured. But the contextual smoking gun wasn't just the fake intern, it was the timing.
Exactly. Analysts looked at the timeline of all these corruption narratives. Stories like Zelensky is stealing aid. These stories didn't appear randomly. They spiked specifically in December 2023.
Which coincided exactly with President Zelensky's visit to the U.S. to secure a major funding package.
Correct. The operation had a strategic goal to weaken Western public support at the exact moment a critical diplomatic decision was being made. When you layer the timing with the fake intern and the bot networks, the attribution becomes undeniable.
So we have all three pillars. But here's the thing that surprised me. The report rarely says Putin ordered this. They don't deal in absolutes.
No intelligence analyst does. They deal in confidence intervals. They'll say high confidence, which means 80 to 100% certain, or moderate confidence, 40 to 60%.
And they use a spectrum of state responsibility. It's not just the state did it or the state didn't.
This is maybe the most important part for understanding modern hybrid warfare. The spectrum starts at state ignored. That's where the government knows hackers are operating but does nothing.
Plausible deniability. We can't control every hacker in our country.
Then you move up to state encouraged, where maybe an official retweets the fake news. Then state shaped. This is informal coordination. The hackers know what the government wants.
And at the very top,
State coordinated and state executed. That's where the state provides money, tech, or uses actual government employees like the GRU to run the op.
so for the corruption campaign targeting Zelensky, the Cartier story, where did the analysts land on that spectrum?
The verdict was high confidence that the operation was state-shaped to state-coordinated.
Why not state executed? Why not go all the way?
Because they couldn't see the bank transfers. Unless you hack the bank and see the Kremlin wiring money to the bot farm, you can't prove execution. But they have the technical infrastructure, the behavioral coordination, and the contextual alignment.
That combination rules out some random patriotic hacker.
A random hacker doesn't get tased to break an embargo.
That distinction is so key. It shows the rigor of the framework. They aren't overreaching.
And that rigor is what allows for legal action. If you want to sanction a country, you can't just have a hunch. You have to show your work.
But there's a catch, isn't there? The report mentions that doing this detective work is actually getting harder.
Much harder. Platforms like X, Facebook, they're restricting their APIs. They're locking the doors. Researchers used to be able to download massive data sets to look for these patterns. Now that access is gone.
We're turning off the lights just as the cockroaches are getting smarter.
And the adversaries are adapting. They know we look for these things now. They know we check SSL certificates. It's a constant arms race.
Which brings us to the so what for the listener. We've talked about state actors, but the tools they use? Stolen data, privacy loopholes are the same ones that affect all of us.
They are. The reason cheap fakes work is because we consume information too quickly. The reason botnets work is because our personal data is too easily available.
So protecting yourself isn't just about personal privacy, it's almost a civic duty. If you lock down your accounts, you deny them a resource.
Absolutely. Go to www.myprivacy.blog, learn how to minimize your digital footprint, and check www.breached.company. Don't let your old email account be the puppet in someone else's play.
I want to leave us with a provocative thought. We've discussed how this framework can mathematically prove a state is manipulating our reality. If we can prove that a foreign government is systematically targeting our minds, polarizing our society, at what point does influence become an act of war?
That is the line we have not defined yet. If they shut down our power grid, we know how to respond. If they hack our cognitive grid, we're still figuring that out.
And as AI accelerates this, making those cheap fakes infinite and instant, we are going to need these digital detectives more than ever.
We will. And we'll need to trust the technical evidence because our own eyes are becoming unreliable witnesses.
A huge thank you to the authors of this report from the Ukrainian Center for Strategic Communications and NATO Stratcom COE for this incredible insight. And thanks to our partners, www.breached.company and www.myprivacy.blog.
Stay safe out there, digitally and physically.
Thanks for listening. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.